everyone, it's April Kamara here. Today I pulled some cards for the collective reading for the new moon and solar eclipse in Cancer. Now, this is like honestly an insane time for a lot of people, and the stories I was pulling off the cards as I was pulling them, because for me personally, when it comes to like tarot readers, I very rarely like to actually like pull the cards on the video just because sometimes there's like waning periods in between. So I like to kind of like pull the cards first, and I went ahead and like corrected the deck, like shuffled it the way that I shuffle it. And like I like to say before all of my readings, I'm not like a certified tarot reader. I don't even consider myself a legitimate tarot reader. I really just use the tarot. This is the only tarot deck that I enjoy and that I'll use. It's called the Hermetic Tarot, if you guys want to see the Hermetic Tarot. I actually was walking past these tarot cards, I think probably a couple months ago, in a store that I love. And it was so funny because I was like walking past them to go get something to eat, and my eyes just went like, whoa, and I had to stop and I had to pick them up and I had to look at them. I don't even think the tarot deck was open. I think I was literally just looking at the cover, and the cover just looks just like this. And as I was looking at it, I was like really drawn to these symbols. Like I've seen these symbols before. I know these symbols. Like I can work with these symbols. And developing as a medium, because my intuition honestly has come from mediumship. Developing my intuition has been directly correlated with connecting with spirit. So I used to get like these oracle cards, and I would draw from them, and I would get the same freaking oracle card every time. Trust your intuition, trust your intuition. So I kind of felt like there was this like initiation I was going through where like my spirit team really didn't want me to get dependent upon cards. They wanted me to know first and foremost that like my intuition is fire, and like I don't need anything outside of that, right? But for videos like this, I feel like it's super fun and enjoyable for you guys to get to like kind of like see what I'm seeing with me and see how I understand these things. So I always tell people, I have no official training in tarot. I tried to get the old school like rider tarot, like everyone loves those, and didn't really connect with those. I've tried a lot of different ones. These are the only ones that I'll actually put on my YouTube channel that I love and adore. And for funsies, I have these two other decks that I really adore out too, because Cancer is a sign of the mother. It's really significant and symbolic of the mother and the divine feminine. So one of the oracle decks that I have is the Divine Feminine, and then the other one that I have is Work Your Light Oracle Cards and Guidebook by Rebecca Campbell. So those are just two that I'll probably pull at the end for some fun stuff, but let's just get into the reading right now because we have a really interesting story to tell, okay? So the first card that I pulled for you guys, of course, the Queen of Cups. I'm pretty sure the Queen of Cups came into my last reading too. The Queen of Cups is a freaking boss, right? Like she's standing over this water like an elegant like water witch. You know what I mean? She's standing in the water. The water is flowing beautifully for her. There's a chalice standing up there. There's like lotus flowers growing in the background. There's these white discs and black discs, and it's all encompassed in darkness, but she's in the light. You see what I'm saying? So I like to think of like this card as very symbolic of the divine feminine, and of someone who is literally the queen of water. Water, to me, it's talking about consciousness. It's talking about emotions. It's talking about, the waves, the cycles. There's always a pushing and a pulling, right? There's a magnetism that water has, right? Water is always going to find even grounds, right? But water is not always flat, right? Like it takes pristine stillness for water to actually become even, right? So when I think of the Queen of Cups, to me what this is saying is that there's a lot of people who are in this place of like being basically wielded to be the Queen of Cups, right? And the Queen of Cups is a boss, right? Like look at her. She's like elegant. She's standing there. But the Queen of Cups has been through some shit, right? Like the Queen of Cups had to basically have lifetimes of emotional turmoil and emotional, probably even like abuse and emotional tests and trials, right? To actually be able to stand there radiantly. Like she wasn't just born this way. Like she had a full on initiation, right? Like she's the queen. And people look at queens and they think about, like, oh, you know, most queens are born into royalty, right? Like the way that we see it, but this is not that kind of queen. This is a cosmic queen, right? This is like, this goes beyond like our definition of what we've defined as royal. And this is like a true royalty. This is like a true testament of where she's been and what she's going through. And that's really what this is symbolic of everyone now, because so many people that I'm working with right now, because I do Reiki and readings for like a select few clients, right? And most of my clients right now are going through this really resurge of all of their past karmic stuff, right? So it's like, you know how everyone in the spiritual community, like we're really like, we always talk about the higher self, and we're like, connect with your higher self. You know, that's your connection to source. That's your connection to God. You know, that's one step up for you. That's the person that you can learn from, that you can rely on. And that is so true, right? But in order to have a higher self, we have to have a lower self. And no one really talks about that, right? No one really talks about, like, people talk about the ego, you know, but not in a healthy way to me at all. We don't talk about how, like right now, there's all these merging of timelines. Like I feel, especially for my clients, there are all these like past hidden fears, past hidden lives where maybe they weren't the best, or maybe they chose a life that wasn't of light, and maybe it was a more darker path, right? And right now what they're having to do is they're having to reconcile both, right? So the way that I see it, it's like just how we connect with our higher self. Right now, our lower selves are needing a lot of love, a lot of reconciliation, and a lot of reverence, right? Because the truth of the matter is you can't change who you were, right? You can't change who you've been. And the thing is that you wouldn't be the soul that you are today without those lives. And we look at things very short term right now, right? We think about things as like, oh my God, you know, in a past life, I was a terrible person, you know, and we try to shove that part of ourselves away. We try to like say, hey, you're not a part of me. And we kind of try to cut it off. But when we do that, we lose all of the lessons, all of the power, all of the understanding of who that darker, deeper part of us is, right? That's not saying that if you reconcile with that part of yourself, that part of yourself is going to take over you. The only way that part of yourself can take over you is if you try to deny it, like some people do their ego, right? And you try to deny your ego, then your ego can kind of grow and get bigger because you're avoiding it. And the only reason why it's getting bigger is not because it's bigger, badder, and better than you. Excuse me, I just did a shake. But they're getting bigger because it requires your attention. Like we came here to settle our past debts. We came here to settle all the things here, right? We came here to reverse karma. We came here to, you know, love ourselves. We came here to learn about ourselves, right? And every time I talk to my higher self, there's always this reverence for us here, you know, like, because we think about our higher self and we're like, oh, why can't I be where you are? And our higher self is like, keep effing going, girl, because I can't be down there with you, right? Because our higher self isn't allowed to do all the things that we're allowed to do here. Our higher self can't be in this amount of density with us here, right? Like we are working out stuff they're learning from us. You see what I'm saying? Like people don't talk about it like that because we've always kind of been taught to like look up to these people and or to these things, right? And we've been told like, oh my God, like, right, too bad you're not like that, right? Too bad you're not your higher self all the time. Too bad you can't just bring your higher self down here. And the truth is like, no, because that's not what is meant to be, right? You're meant to integrate the lower and the upper part of yourself here. Integration is everything, right? Because integration takes all that you've had and all that you've understood in each and every life, and it puts it in its proper place, right? Because these lives aren't the soul of who we are. It's not completely who we are, right? These past lives that we're so afraid of, that we're so much trying to get rid of, they're not bad, right? They're aspects of us. And until we can understand that something as an aspect of us, it has a place, right? Like it has a place somewhere within us. It has a place somewhere within our soul history. And so long as we can place it and we can identify it and we can say, oh my God, this is what this is. This is what this taught me, and have reverence for it and make peace with it, right? And love that part of ourselves that was so hurt and wounded, and love that part of ourselves that is just trying to reconcile what it did. Then we can have that Queen of Cups energy and we can be in power. That's how you become magnetic. You don't become magnetic by you know, just staying in your light or just staying in your dark. You become truly magnetic when you can intertwine the both, and when you can use them and magnetize things to you from that place of integration, from that place of fully knowing yourself, of fully knowing who you are, right? And that's what most of my clients are having to go through right now. They're seeing, like, you know, having these crazy dreams or these crazy experiences in their life where they've considered themselves to be, like, you know, on the path of light, or, you know, as close to the path of light as they can while still being human. But if there's still parts of them that they're rejecting, if there's still pieces of their past or their history that's trying to come up right now that they're scared of and that they're trying to push away, it's just getting bigger and bigger, right? So when I asked to clarify the Queen of Cups, because I think I just went on a little rant. When I asked to clarify the Queen of Cups, I got the Emperor, right? And so what does this tell me? This is divine masculine, you guys, right? The Empress is like the mother, and this is like the father. This is divine masculine. We're healing so many wounds, so many emotional wounds, so many emotional triggers with the divine masculine in mind, right? And we're taking all those lessons and we're taking all of those understandings and we're putting it into freaking action. You know, for those of us who are light workers, we're taking all the shit that we went through that brought us here and we're funneling it into a business, we're funneling it into a product, we're funneling it into a service that we can offer people, so that way not only do we have this, you know, Queen of Cups energy, but we've got the freaking Emperor underneath it to direct it and to, like, put it and to, like, say, okay, this is what this is going to do for me. This is how I'm going to take this part of my life and make it better. This is how I'm going to take all this shit that I went through to get here and I'm going to put it to work for me. And I'm going to take that magnetism and I'm going to start manifesting my reality, and I'm going to start calling to myself what I want. And I'm going to start telling the universe, like, this is truly what I freaking want, you know, and declaring it. Because the freaking Emperor, like, whereas you have, like, the Empress who, like, sits on her throne and everything, you know, she sees everything. The Emperor, look at him. He's got his hands going in different directions. He's got a lotus in one hand and then a bull in the other hand. He's got the Aries sign under here. He's got a bee that he's literally standing on, right? And to me, the bee is very symbolic of all the work that we do here, right? What do bees do? They go collect the pollen and they make the honey, right? So he's, like, taking all that with him. He's standing on top of that, right? And then on top of that, there's like a crow or, like, maybe a hawk underneath him. I can't really tell. There's all these spheres, right? All these spheres that he's wielding. And that to me is, like, so symbolic of what I was just talking about, right? It's taking all those different aspects of ourselves and it's putting it to work and it's putting it to use, and it's taking something and then making something beautiful out of what seemed at that time tragic. You see what I'm saying? So this is a super powerful thing about this. For this new moon, for this solar eclipse in Cancer, this is our first two cards. Like, how effing amazing is that, you know? Like, when I pulled those cards, I was like, yes, this is going to be such a good reading. And then I got, like, it just got better. Honestly, it just got better. So the next card that I pulled was the Ten of Cups. And if you can see this, at the bottom it says the Lord of perfected success, right? So long as we're doing our work, right, we're taking all these things, we're making peace with who we are, who we've been, and we're taking these lessons that we learn and we're directing it and we're telling it where to go, and we're saying, hey, you know, I can't, like, all I can do with this is move forward, and all I can do with this is basically all the universe will allow me to right now, and I'm going to do my part. You know, I'm going to step where I need to step. I'm going to move when I need to move. I'm going to take what used to be so, like, fearful, and I'm going to turn it into, like, my biggest, shiniest object, the one thing that actually guides my path into the place that I want to do, so that way I can be the Lord of perfected success. So that way I can have this Ten of Cup moments where my cups runneth over, right? Where, like, there is constantly a flow of love, of abundance, where all this water, all this emotion is trickling down upon me from higher dimensions, all this, like, energy, right? All my higher self energy is coming down upon me, and I'm turning that into water, and I'm letting it, with my creation, with how I've decided where my path is going to lead me, it's literally creating this Lord of abundance, right? Perfected success. So we're getting to this place where there's no more, like, there's no more time to play. You know, this is not playtime. This is, like, get real. Just get honest with yourself. do what you got to do so that way you can have that Lord of perfected success. And then right underneath that, there's the Hierophant, right? And it's so funny to me too, because like the Hierophant, when I read it, it's like all about choosing a path of virtue, you know? When I looked at it, it even talked about like having a religion or having something that you lean on that, like, you know, that really instills that within you. And the funny part about having this card come up is because I've seriously healed so many relationships in my family with people who I thought because of like their religion, it would just never work. Right. And the thing was that like as soon as I decided that I was ready to heal that, and like I reached out and like I put myself out there and like just like laid my heart bare, like with no judgment, with just like, you know, appreciation for those people, no matter how they felt, it was like I got so much love back, and it was such a powerful experience for me, you know? So as before, I used to see this Hierophant card, and I used to think like, oh, F that, you know, like that's just not me. It's not anything I'm going to do. Now I'm starting to see, I'm like, wow, you know, like everyone has a path, you know? And even if like the paths don't align right now, it doesn't make anyone's path less valid. It doesn't make anyone's experience less, admirable, basically, right? So the Hierophant for you, it may mean kind of turning into a religion, but also it can mean something as just like having a spiritual practice that you use every day to keep you in alignment, right? To keep you in alignment with your higher self. So that way your Queen of Cups is solid. So that way your Emperor, you know, your Emperor energy of where you're guided and where you're directed is coming from a place of love and wholeness, and not just from a place of like mental angst and mental anxiety, right? So the Hierophant here is super powerful, especially with the Ten of Cups, because the Hierophant is kind of the foundation that you lay, so that every single day when you like start to like, you know, take action on the things that you want to do, you're starting from a solid foundation and not from a wobbling one, right? You're not questioning whether or not the universe is there for you or not. You're not questioning, you know, whether or not you're good enough or whether or not these things are meant for you. You have a connection with the divine, you know, and that connection is solid, and it may come through a religion, or it may come through a spiritual practice, or it may come through just a devotion, you know, a time of devotion for yourself and for the universe, however you choose that be. But I believe that that kind of is like, I believe that was under the Ten of Cups for a reason, to say that we need not get distracted with a materialistic mentality, right? Like, because Ten of Cups can very much become a materialistic mentality. And so the Hierophant levels that out. The Hierophant says, no, you know, this is everything that I want and more. Like, my cups runneth over right now. Now I need to go thank someone. You know, now I need to go do something for someone. Now I need to create this sense of devotion so I can expand that gratitude, you know? And if the universe wants to give me more, I'm ready, right? Whatever the universe has for me, like, I'm taking time to listen, but I'm not getting stuck in a materialistic mindset, right? Like, I'm really making sure I'm starting on solid ground. And from that place, we get to the eight of Pentacles, right? So the Eight of Pentacles here, it says the Lord of Prudence. To me, what this is saying, just like the Hierophant was kind of choosing to start his the Hierophant was there to really help us make sure that we're not getting caught up in materialism, and we're really staying in that grounded sense of like reverence, right? And of spirituality and of religion if you choose. But then the Eight of Pentacles, the Lord of Prudence, is saying, then we start to actually really get serious. You know, we start to take out the pieces of these pentacles that aren't necessary, and we start letting spirit do some of the work, right? This Eight of Pentacles, this has the sign of Virgo and the sun, right? So what that's saying, like, Virgo is almost like perfected spirituality. If you've ever met a Virgo or a Virgo sun, there's such like beacons of love and of gratitude and of like spirituality, right? So this Lord of Prudence is like saying that from that place of the Hierophant, you know, our cups are runneth over, then we get to this place of what is no longer serving us, you know? What were we doing out of maybe like trying to prove something, you know? What were we doing because we thought we should, and it's actually not really serving us, you know? And it's maybe starting to mess with a couple of those cups that were running over, right? Maybe it's trying to cut off our flow. What needs to go, right? And that's where we start to actually see, like, we start to let go of things that we thought we needed or we thought we had to do. And that's where like God shows up, you know? That's where the whole like the Holy Spirit just comes in, right? And it comes to a place where you're actually sitting there and you're like, wow, I actually never needed this, right? Because Spirit's still here and Spirit's actually taking care of this for me. And I can actually really cut out a lot of things in my life and make room for peace, right? And make room for devotion and make room for all the things in my life that are to come. And then that was actually followed out with the death card, right? Like everyone freaks out about this card, but I love this card. This is like my typical Scorpio card. I'm like, I can't have a really good reading if the death card's not in there, because the death card to me is like a completion of a cycle. You know, like here it looks pretty ratchet. Like you have like, there's a skull and there's another skull and he's got his like sling blade inside that skull. And there's just like a lot of chaos, right? But typical Scorpio style, with that Eight of Pentacles, you know, there is a death. There is a part of us that we're losing. And it's the part of us that's no longer serving us. It's the part of us that has truly always needed to go, but maybe we've just been letting hang out too long. You know, I think of like the Cleaning Out the Closet song by Eminem when I see the death card, you know? It's like all the stuff and all the anger and all the things that were just kind of like eating away at us, we're finally just like reconciling with it. We're saying, okay, you know, I know I've held on to you for so long, but I can't do this anymore. And this isn't healthy for me. And something's got to change, right? And I mean, there's not really much you can say about that, except for there may be like a sense of loss, but that sense of loss is like a void that's created within you that's allowing the light to come in. You see what I'm saying? It's like you have to remove all that junk, and there may feel like emptiness for a little while, right? But you have to sit with that, because that emptiness is space that source gets to come in. You know, that is emptiness where God gets to show up for you. And it just goes perfectly with this card, right? Like, look at it. You have these pentacles that like are invisible, right? And you have the sun kind of shining into these places. And if you're like to consider the sun sort of like God, right? Then that's kind of like God's way of saying like, hey, I know you thought you needed all this here, but actually let me come in and let me kind of take this away and still show you that everything is good, but kind of show you what good you're meant for, not the good that you think you need to have, right? And then there's that death feeling, that feeling of like, well, like I thought I really needed that. I thought I really wanted that, you know? And then you start to realize when it's gone, there's that sense of loss, but there's also this understanding of like something better is coming, you know? I know something better is coming. I know this is something that I need. And then the next card that I pulled for you guys was the Seven of Wands. And this says the Lord of Valor, right? That's where this transformation happens to me. Like the Lord of Valor is pretty much saying like you go from, you know, just so many rebirths. Like, I don't know if you guys can see, but like these cards are kind of like they have their own flow. You know, they have their own highs and lows. You know, they have their own like, you know, peaks and valleys almost. And it's almost as if we're really preparing for something so great, right? For something so magical. And that's where this Lord of Valor comes in, because like we're, I think, going through it and we're transforming what needs to be transformed, right? And we're doing it in a way that's focused on our inner world, right? The moon. So when I saw the Lord of Valor and the moon, I was like, we are doing like hardcore dream work stuff. We are working with our intuition in this time. We're having like I said, even how this reading has their highs and lows, right? We're going along with the ebbs and flows of the universe, and we're actually doing it in a way that is like really perpetuating and really getting us to hone in on our inner world, right? So many of us are so focused on the external. We're so focused on how we're going to get money. We're so focused on how, you know, people think about us, how we look, you know, what's going on in our life, but we're not actually focused on our inner world. We're not actually focused on how we're thinking about ourselves or how we're being to other people inside. You know, we're not thinking about the hurt and the pain that we may be ignoring every single day, and how that hurt and pain in the spirit world is actually this like really mean, nasty thing that needs to get taken care of. You see what I'm saying? So to me, what it's saying, this is really indicative of people kind of going into their own inner worlds and battling their own demons, you know, facing their demons face to face and saying, hey, you know, I know you're here, but I also know that I created you. So what do you need to tell me? You know, like, what are you here to show me? you know, I just had this death, and now I'm in this like place of like really rebuilding my life from the inside out. But first I have to handle these things that are chaotic. I have to handle these things that, you know, internally aren't in alignment with all this other work that I've done. You see what I'm saying? So super powerful cards, super powerful things. And then I have 2 more cards for you guys. Hold on. Okay, so the last 2 cards that I pulled, I think were really perfect for this, because you got the 4 of Swords, and this says the Lord of Rest from Strife, right? So to me, what this is saying is that after it's all said and done, we're going to stand with our heads held high, our shoulders pulled back, and we're going to be like, wow, I did this to the best of my abilities. And at the end, we're going to see that, like, I get to rest now. Like, this is a time where I've been through the ringer, but now it's time to rest, right? To rest and digest. It's the Lord of Rest from Strife. You know, there's this beautiful flower. There's 4 different swords stuck through it, and like they're just radiating this beautiful light from it. Let's see, what is there any signs in here? I don't really see any signs, but it's basically just saying that, you know, we're meeting ourselves. Like I said before, you know, where we're doing all this inner world stuff and we're handling all the chaotic energies within us. Well, the 4 of Swords is saying, hey, you did it. You know, that's when we lay when we lay our heads at night to rest and we say, wow, I did the best that I could. You know, like Rome wasn't built in a day. All this turmoil, all this energy wasn't built in a day. And then what comes back? Now we have the Princess of Cups, right? So now we're resting in that place of, okay, I did it. You know, okay, I completed this cycle. I did the best that I could with the cycle in my physical life and in my spiritual life. And now I get to rest, but I also get to reap the benefits of all the space that I've created in my inner world, and all these beautiful emotions get to flow to me, and I get to enjoy them like a little girl. You know, my inner child gets to come out now. You know, the Queen of Cups is super serious and has so much power, right? And we go through this and we go through this, and then at the end we come out almost as like a child, you know, and it's like that form of being able to play in all that we've created, and that form of being able to enjoy the emotions like a freaking teenager would. You know, like think about when you're a teenager and you're having the best time and nothing could ever get to you, right? Like that to me is what this card is saying. It's like we get to kind of go from being the queen and having this like, you know, serious stuff we're dealing with all the way down to coming back into our own selves, you know, coming back into the most fertile, the most like beautiful, the most enjoyable parts of ourselves, right? And I feel like this is so indicative of how, like, of what's been coming up for me recently, what's been coming through to me, because to me personally, like there's so much healing of the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and then just this getting back to our pure essence, you know what I mean? Getting back to the place where we are more like children, where we're enjoying life like a child, even as an adult, right? Like how many adults can actually say that they live like a child, you know, and actually say that they live in such a way where they're feeling the most fertile, the most sexy, you know, the most like them that they can be, with no cares about the outside world and what the outside world is doing, right? Like you were just able to, as a teenager, just live in this perfect little bubble of like nothing else matters but me. And I'm going to enjoy the life that I'm given. I'm going to, you know, take the most that I can from it. I'm going to do the most that I can with it. And in that place, I'm going to be in the most joy and the most happiness and in the most abundance, right? So this is a full, this is like the full spread. I've honestly never been this connected to a tarot deck and had this good of a reading from a tarot reading. So thanks for being here with me, a part of this. I want to go ahead and pull some cards from the Rebecca Campbell deck just because I really love all her symbology. The only thing I really don't love about these cards is that they don't shuffle as well as all my other cards. But they're proving me wrong today and shuffling really well, so I love that. Yay! Maybe I'll use these cards more. So do you have any messages for the collective on the new moon and solar eclipse in Cancer? See, this is why I don't really shuffle decks on things, because like you'll just be shuffling and you're like, there we go. Let's see, what do we got? Yes, I love this card so much. So this is the card that says you're already doing it. So this is for the people who are watching this and they're like, holy F, I have no clue what she's talking about. I have no clue what past life thing she's talking about or how I'm going to use that or how I'm going to direct it. And Spirit's just like, tell them that they're already doing it. And this is so resonant to me too, because I feel like in my path, I felt the same way. You know, I felt like, holy crap, Spirit, like, I'm like, what does this mean? You know, like, what am I supposed to do with it? Because I felt so lost in the sauce. I was like, this is crazy. And Spirit would always just be like, you're on the right path. Like, you are doing a great job, you know? And it would kind of annoy me because I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, do you see this stuff going on in my life? Like, do you realize, like, how big of a freaking U-turn I've taken and how this, like, isn't serving me at all? Because, hello. And then the next card they have is take a break, you know? So just like I said, even the cards had such highs and lows, and like, you know, it was all kind of creating this ebb and flow. So it's like, you're already doing it. If you don't know what to do, then take a break, right? Give yourself a void period. Give yourself a period of rest where something powerful can come through you, but in a way that you're ready and prepared, right? And I think as spiritual people, we can always use more rest, because intuitive abilities are not easy. Like, you have to really rest and digest what's going on with you. You have to be able to just foresee things within you. And in order to foresee things within you, you have to get still and you have to get quiet. Now I want to do a card pull from the Divine Feminine book that I have because I love it so much. It's like the best card deck ever. Do you have any messages for the collective? And these are all just Divine Feminine archetypes. And if you're a man, I truly believe that, like, Divine Feminine archetypes can totally apply to you. It's definitely not just for women. Just like Divine Masculine, like, women still have to have a Divine Masculine if we want to be balanced humans, you know? All right. Oh, I love this one. I've said this so many times. Okay, so this one's Parvati. It says the goddess of devotion. And she even kind of looks pregnant here. I love this. She says her affirmation is, I am a love that doesn't leave. When I commit to love, my soul evolves. Like, look how beautiful that is, you know? And this is so true, because that was the one thing I was saying about, you know, we had this like 10 of cups moment where our cups floweth over, and then the Hierophant was there to say, like, okay, yes, you have that, and that is great, but you are first a spiritual being having a human experience, right? And I was saying it was like to have that time of devotion. So it's like, if you know you're not religious and that's not something you ever want to get into, then you need to create this time of devotion, right? You need to make sure that you have a love that doesn't leave and that you're actually committing to love, right? I think that's why one of the books that I like really love kind of diving into is like A Course in Miracles sometimes, you know, because A Course in Miracles has that like no BS like ability to just kind of like strip you down to love, you know, and that's like something that if you guys are curious about or you want to devotional practice, A Course in Miracles actually has like daily affirmations and like it's like a daily workbook basically. So that would be a great way to incorporate, excuse me, some devotion to your life. Like I said, this is going to be so powerful. I'm so excited. Fingers crossed that this isn't too long and it'll upload to YouTube. I'm going to go ahead and hop off here. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you like this video, make sure to comment below. Tell me, you know, like, what are you working through? What is your Queen of Cups stuff coming up, you know? What are you going to do to have your Hierophant moment so that way you're setting yourself on a solid ground, you know, and you're like working from a stable foundation. And then, of course, like, share, and subscribe this video, please. The more people that get to see this, the better, because let's be honest, like, everyone should know how amazing this new moon and solar eclipse can be in their lives. Like, everyone needs to have this ability to understand that, like, everything is literally set up in our favor. So long as we just like are along for the ride, we're present and we're able to stay centered in who we are. So thanks so much for watching. Leave me a comment below as always, and I will see you guys later.